Okay, listeners, a lot of you have asked and Prep Dish has answered. Now in 2019, Prep Dish offers keto meal plans. In addition to already having paleo and gluten-free, this is such a great way for us to start off the new year eating just maybe a little bit healthier than I did over the holiday season. Okay, so here's the deal. If you haven't done it already, we have a 2-week free trial to check it out and see if it makes a difference for you. I know it has for our family. So go to prepdish.com/heygirl and choose whatever meal plan you want. Maybe you want to try all 3. See what the difference between keto or gluten-free or paleo. They actually have 3 different ones to choose from. And I would love to hear how these plans work for you. So again, prepdish.com/heygirl and check it out, their new keto meal plans.
Hey girls, and welcome to season 3 of the Hey Girl podcast with my mom, Bethany Needham. Each week, guests will share their amazing stories of following Jesus on all kinds of journeys. I hope their stories inspire you to run your race in your place. Thank you so much for listening.
Hey girls, and welcome back to another episode of Hey Girl. It is 2019, and it's actually 2019 when I'm recording this because I feel like I've been on a recording hiatus. We had so many things kind of stockpiled, did a lot of recording earlier on in the season, and then took a really long break. So I'm sitting here thinking, this is not like riding a bike. As in, you get in front of the mic and it's been so long and I feel like I forgot how to do this. I'm sure this is thoroughly entertaining for my daughter Mercy, who is listening to all 47 takes of this one episode. But it's worth it because today I get to introduce you to one of our nominated guests, Erica. Now, Erica was nominated by a church friend of mine, and one of those friends that when they suggest you interview someone, like you don't even need to ask questions. You're like, hey, if you suggested them, absolutely. And it was absolutely incredible to get to know her. I love the ones that we have the conversations doing the episodes and then we still get to touch base afterwards. And Erica has been one of those guests. And it's just been so encouraging to me to hear the things that God is doing in her life. Listen, we're going to talk through a lot of different things in this episode today. And I know for some of you, you're going to relate to a lot of different areas of her story, especially those of you who have walked the journey of adoption. And so without further ado, I am so excited to kick off 2019 by introducing you to my new friend, Erica. Okay, listeners, I have another new friend to introduce you to. So, Erica, you are one of my nominated guests, which means that this season I put out on Facebook like, hey, if any of you have someone in your life that you think would be a great guest on Hey Girl, tag them here, let me know. And my dear friends, the Kinsteads, who I go to church with, and I just think that they are the sweetest and most adorable family, nominated you. And so I was like, anybody they nominate, obviously, I'm going to go for. First of all, welcome to the show, Erica.
Thank you so much. It was really just an honor that they even thought of me. So when I got the little notification, I was like, what is this? But it was so neat. And I just felt like really excited.
Oh, yay. So for everyone except the Kinsteads who clearly know your story, why don't you take some time and tell us a little bit about yourself and just the journey that God's brought you on?
I feel like this right now, to answer that question, is just tough because there's been so very much lately. So when they nominated me and, they were telling me, you're going to just talk about what God's done in your life. And I'm like, oh, good grief, there's a lot going on. I am a middle school teacher, and I have been for, I think like 15 years if I'm doing the math.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It's a strange age, and I love it. So a lot of times when folks find out that I am a middle school teacher, the first response is like, "Oh, really? That age?" And I swear, I think they're just so much fun.
I'm with you on that. Just so you know, I love middle school.
Yeah, they haven't got the too cool disease of high school. They're not like, can you wipe my nose and tie my shoe? Like, they're just in this fun age, and I adore them. I am also a mama of 2 amazing little boys, Hezekiah and Ezra, and I've been married 11 years now. Both of our boys are adopted. They have each been with us since they were 2 days old. They were both domestic adoptions, meaning they were born in the United States. We did consider international adoption to start off with, and we prayed a lot about it, and the doors shut pretty quickly that was not what we were meant to do. Did I say their ages yet?
Well, you said their names, which, by the way, are amazing names.
Thank you. When we first started considering adoption, when you tell anybody that, the first thought is like, oh, they are a couple that struggles with infertility. And that wasn't our case. It was something that I have thought I had wanted to do my entire life. I loved the idea of being a mama to a child that needed one. And so I didn't realize, like, that's not what everybody necessarily has on their heart. And so when I married my husband, Dustin, he didn't think that right away. Like, he was like, well, no, we're going to have biological kids. And I'm like, yeah, but let's maybe visit this other option. And so we prayed about it a lot and decided to move towards adoption. I don't know why, but I had 2 names on my heart that I wanted to pray for. It was Hezekiah and Ezra. And I'm like, if we get a girl, I don't know what we're going to do, because these are the 2 names, like, just kept coming out. And they're not like normal names. I mean, maybe in the Old Testament they were, but certainly not nowadays. For whatever reason, both my husband and I felt called to pray for these. It was funny because during that I would be apologetic to God. Like, I'm really sorry if I am, supposed to be praying for a girl. I'm really sorry. So direct my prayer somewhere else, or just please forgive my misguidance and whatnot. We started praying about it. We did all kinds of adoption trainings, and we were told the wait time. So once you finish all your paperwork, which, by the way, takes forever, a couple that was open to some of the things that we're open to, like we were okay with other ethnicities, other races, that we'd be waiting for like anywhere from 9 months to a year. And so we're like, all right, we'll just take this time and enjoy being together and pray, and just, the married couple time is important, and we're going to soak that in up until it's time for us to no longer do that. And so we're thinking 9 months. And 2 weeks later, we had a baby in our home.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very fast, and her name was Nyla. Well, it still is. So in domestic adoption, it depends what state you adopt from. So each state has different laws about the amount of time that a birth mother can revoke their consent or change their decision. And so Pennsylvania is 30 days. That was actually something we were really nervous about going into adoption, and why we had wanted to do international adoption. That's not really an option. There's no reversal of that decision once you are in the United States with a baby. And so we kind of worked through that with our adoption counselor, and we learned, that it's not super common. It's less than 5% of all adoption. Will a birth mom have a child in the custody of an adoptive family and then change their mind? It absolutely happens when they're still in the hospital. We knew that, but it's just very, very uncommon. Our adoption worker had been we used Bethany Christian Services for for the first adoption. She'd never experienced it, and she'd been there 5 years, and it's just very uncommon. And so we brought Nyla into our home, and 4 days in, the birth mom changed her mind. And that was just unreal for us, because Justin and I never experienced a miscarriage, but I'm assuming there's some similarities but it was very different as well because we had a baby in our arms for 4 days, and we're up in the middle of the night with her and taking her to the hospital for the checkups, and she had something that we had to continue to go back to the hospital every day and just to get monitored. Nothing serious, but so we were mom and dad to her, and to have her take it was very traumatic, extremely traumatic. And so then she was gone. And we had been ready to just enjoy 9 months of us together. And to be honest, we were married for 5 years before we moved to the adoption process. And I was nervous. I'm like, oh my goodness, what if I don't ever want to have a baby? Like, I just like being married. Like, we traveled abroad. I'm a Spanish teacher. I wanted to go learn some French. We traveled and studied in France for a while and visited friends in Spain. And we had fun. And then all of a sudden, I thought, oh my goodness, what if I don't want a baby? And then when a baby was placed in our home, it was like, I'm ready for this. This is what I'm meant to do this. It just was like a switch. We had thought about it. It wasn't like we went into the adoption process when I wasn't sure about being a mom, but like, it was hardcore. Like a lot of people talk about the baby bug. I just hadn't had it. I was like, yeah, I want to be a mom someday. All right, let's move to this adoption thing. We'll do this. This will be great. We got 9 months. And then once I had that baby in my arms, I'm like, but I was meant to do this. How can this have happened? Then I went through a whole process of just grieving and questioning. Like, I thought I was supposed to adopt, and this didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. And so we kept praying, but I was really like, I've never been so low, or I had never been so low at that point. It was just really, really tough, and just questioning my faith, even like you've been praying for this for so long. You've been so convinced that this is what you're supposed to do. And then this happened. So we just kept praying, and I wonder what would have happened when you go into adoption, you have to put half of the money down. It's very, very expensive to adopt. It's close to $30,000. And so we were $15,000 in, and I'm like, are we really meant to do this? And I'm like, well, we paid $15,000. Like, that's a big investment. Like, Lord, is this really what you want for us? I kept feeling like I was supposed to pray for the name Hezekiah. Like, I had no idea why. And Hezekiah means God gives strength. And I thought, have I just been praying for God to give me strength? Like, have I not really been praying for a child? Like, just really questioning everything. So one night I had this dream, and in it, my mom and I were in the kitchen, and she's like, Hannah. And she kept saying Hannah. She's like, I like the name Hannah. And I woke up thinking, like, Hannah, I think I'm praying for a boy, Hannah. What does that have to do with me? And I looked up the name Hannah. I've read the Bible, cover to cover, but it's been a long time. I don't even remember off the top of my head the Hannah story. Let me look it up. I find it in Samuel, and how Hannah in the Bible had just been so broken and so upset over the fact that she couldn't have a child. I started crying. I'm like, this is me. I'm Hannah. Like, I'm the one that has been begging God for a child, praying every day, crying every day. And I'm not somebody who cries a lot. Like, I'm not, I never have been. And so it was like a new version of myself that I didn't recognize. I started praying through that story, and I really clung to the verse where it says, I pray for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. I just kept praying through that and holding on to that and feeling like, all right, God, we're going to keep moving towards this, and we'll see what happens. So I was raised in a Baptist church, and we pray a lot, sure, but like I would do it, quietly. And we had started going to a church where at the end of the church service, they say, we'd like to pray for somebody. And, we feel like God's asking us to pray for such and such, somebody who maybe is struggling with A, B, C. And that made me uncomfortable. Like, that's not how I was raised. That was kind of weird. That's like, I don't know how I feel about that. So like, I loved our pastor. And when it got to that time, I'm like, okay, that's for somebody else. That's lovely. And so I'm sitting next to my husband. We're listening to the children's pastor. And I got to be honest, I got up. I was like, the children's pastor, really? Like, I should have stayed in bed. Like I told her this, so this is not a secret. And she just floored me with the wisdom that she had. So I was like, God totally was like, really, Erica, really? He was talking about Daniel and Abigail, and she starts talking about Abigail's story being redeemed. And I had used the word redeemed so often when I was praying, like, God, please just redeem our story. I'm ready for our story to be redeemed. And I just would use that word. And I was like, so I'm like Abigail, like, I want my story to be redeemed. And so at the end, the pastor says, anybody's sitting there thinking, man, I want my story to be redeemed, come up for prayer. And I start this conversation with God in my head. I'm like, God, I'm not getting up. Like, how many people are sitting here and want their story to be redeemed? I'm not getting up. And Dustin, my husband, knows I've used this word redeemed a lot in my prayer. So then they said, the next thing is, so I pray. I'm like, God, I'm not getting up. If you're talking to me right now, you have to be a lot louder. And I said, louder. So then they said, just so you know, the next thing that we got was, we just had this vision of like a megaphone. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, so then I get like a little stubborn. I'm a bit stubborn. And I say,
I can't tell at all. It's not.
I'm a middle school teacher. I gotta have some fun. So I was like, Lord, I'm not getting up unless you call me by name. And my middle name is John. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mom. I'm like, unless you call me by name, go ahead, Erica John Mier. Go ahead. I'm not getting up. And then she goes, Hannah. There's somebody with the heart of Hannah. And I was like, oh. And my husband's like, no, really, what does she need to say for you to get up? Get up. This is you.
He's like, I ain't getting struck by lightning. Get out that seat.
Yes. So I get up and I'm so like nervous because it's in front of the church. I mean, nobody's watching, but it's like a girl named Bridget starts praying for me. And I just tell her briefly about our story. And she's like, are you kidding me? Yeah, this happened a year ago, right? And I said, yeah. And she's like, we were praying for you. So when the failed adoption happened, the night it happened, my husband and I were just like traumatized. And we called our pastor who came over to pray for us. The next day, he came over and prayed for us again and just said, I'm really thankful that couples in our church experiencing really tough things are really reaching out to God through them. We just found that this young woman in our church, she had to have brain surgery. We're not sure how she's going to do. So I started praying for this woman, and she started praying for me. It was her. It was Bridget was praying for me. So the girl that had that Hannah, I'm going to pray for Hannah. She and I had been praying for each other for almost a year and didn't know it.
Wow.
So as she's praying, she goes, I just want to give you this verse. And it was the verse, prayed for this child and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him, which is the one I've been clinging to. So it was just amazing. And I was like, I should share with you that a birth mother is currently looking at our profile. And Bridget's like, I don't know if it's this one. I don't know. Like, she was like backpedaling, like, oh my goodness, this is real. Like what we're praying through, like God's actually working here. Like, should I say, like, I don't know if it's this baby or something else. And she's like, but she just said, I feel like the season of rejoicing is coming for you. Just to back up a little bit, just because we hit kind of like a really special date for us. So on September 19th, I guess it was 2012, that was the day that Nyla was taken out of our house. I know that she is meant to be with her birth mother, and we pray for her still. But for us, it was really tough. September 19th was just really a rough day. Well, exactly 1 year later, we got a phone call from our adoption agency saying that a Hispanic birth mother would be looking at our profile. That was like 1 year to the day. And that was Hezekiah's birth mom. When Bridget had been praying for us, that was October, and Hezekiah was born at the end of October, and he was the baby for us. So flash forward, we have two babies. September 19th, 2016, we left the hospital with Ezra. I realized that yesterday when I was posting a picture of our family, because we are currently in the process to adopt baby number 3.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was posting it, and I just posted to the Facebook world, like, to make it Facebook official. And I was like, my goodness, like, our story has been redeemed, and people that I didn't even know were praying for us. And it was kind of neat to share it with my Facebook friends, who then shared it with their Facebook friends, to like kind of say, look at what God's been doing. And this is our family now. So
that story is beautiful, and I absolutely love it. I have friends that are going through adoption processes, people that I know that are considering the process of adoption. What are maybe some of the things in this process that for you have been a surprise, whether I guess that could be like a good surprise? And then obviously you shared one really challenging, unexpected with your first, the baby girl coming home, but maybe other things now that you've had Hezekiah in your house for a while, some things that you've learned since you've had them in your house.
I think that something that I learned that is really good is that open adoption is not scary. We do have an open adoption with Ezra, our youngest. So I guess I had just been afraid of, what happened. The thing is, the women that do make the decision to go forward with adoption are doing it because they love that child and they want what's best for that child, and they're choosing you thinking that you are what is best. And so, I mean, I can't speak for every single situation, but we have a really beautiful relationship with Ezra's birth mom, and we see her a couple times a year, and she's amazing. She is just so sweet. Every time we leave, she'll hug me and be like, I'm so thankful it was you. Like, just, yeah. And the thing is, like, it's going to be so good for him to be able to ask questions that I don't have answers to. Whether it be, what's your blood type? Or what kind of family history do we have going on medically? Or, what was going on in your life that you just weren't able to parent? And those are going to be hard questions to ask and hard questions for her to answer. But I'm so thankful that he can at least have her in his life. Now, Hezekiah doesn't have his birth parents in his life, and that's really hard for me. And it's funny because I never thought I would have felt that way, ever. Like, it's something that is I'm like praying that someday, his birth mom will change her mind, that he can, they're not going to be best friends, and that's fine. But just to be able to ask the hard questions, because hard questions aren't easy, but they're important. I just think that if anybody is considering adoption, the things that are scary about it, you can embrace those things. I just think that's part of our faith in general. Like, God didn't ask us to have a cakewalk. He has asked us to kind of join him in his sufferings, and we're going to be blessed for that. Like, I certainly am blessed for going through what we went with our failed adoption. Like, it was hard. I don't want to ever do it again. But God brings blessings out of those times. I was able to support a friend who went through a really, really difficult adoption. I could understand the fear that she had in ways that nobody else could. And so we were able to really build our friendship, and I could support her. And I just feel like everything happens for a reason. Not necessarily a good thing to say to somebody when they're in the depths, but I think that God can use everything, and does.
I love that. One of the things I've probably said 1,000 times, but in light of that, is that idea that God doesn't waste, that he's just not a wasteful God. When we can surrender those things into his hands and just trust what he's going to do with it. And the truth is, some things we get to see his redemption here on this side of eternity, but there's a whole lot of things that it's kind of that trust of God, maybe not here, but in eternity. I really believe that you are a God of redemption.
So going on what you said, we were blessed that we got to see that redemption here. But my mother just passed about 5 months ago. And that's something that I'm waiting for on the other side. It's a little rough still, but she was sick pretty much my whole life, off and on. I used to pray like through Job, and I used to get mad at God, and I think we're allowed to be mad at God. I mean, with respectfully so. We're allowed to be honest with God, not I don't mean yell at God, but although I'm sure I've done that at some point. In Job, at the end, he gets everything back, and my mom didn't here on earth. And so that's where I'm working through my faith on that. Just I'm praying that, you know, she's got that crown, and he said, well done, my good and faithful servant. So yeah, I guess that's where I am now. A little different story than the adoption, huh?
Well, not exactly. I think honestly it's faith in both of those, but like we said, one you're getting to experience here and when you're trusting. I think the loss of loved ones is probably the greatest example I have of that. You just have to kind of trust that God, that's going to be absolutely redeemed in eternity and not on this side, because they're gone. And that's a loss. And I think anybody who's walked through that definitely can attest to that. In fact, I think remembering that God doesn't waste any of that, even the pain of loss. And though we don't get to see them again until eternity, I think that God can use that journey, the journey we had with them, their impact and influence in our life, that he doesn't waste that even here on the earth, that the influence that your mom had in your life and who she was in your life, and just what that will do to, your journey as a mom with your little boys. And the third, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, if we're even allowed to know, but whatever, boy, girl, whatever. But yeah, just who you're going to be as a mom. I just think that's the little almost glimpse of beauty that we get to see on this side, which still pales in comparison to what we have waiting for us in eternity. But yeah, that and the promise of, like you said, with loved ones that are sick. I've lost a couple of people the last few years, and it's, been through sickness. And I just, especially on those times when I just more than anything want them back here, am like constantly reminding myself that they're not sick anymore. And that's like ultimately that picture of them being able to run and smile and all the things that they've maybe never been able to do in their life. And that's another one for me. That's just that, okay, God, that little glimpse, like I'm going to cling to that until I join them.
Yeah. But
man, thank you so much for being willing to share that. And I'm sorry for your loss too.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing the story of your adoption of your beautiful kids. I love hearing stories of, for whatever reason, we've had a couple of people on here that have shared stories of adoption, and I just think they're so powerful.
Yeah.
And just that image of God's adopting us into his family, and thinking, like, being able to see that here on earth with people, obviously none of us as parents are God and are perfect, but
oh no.
But we get that glimpse, and it's just a powerful reminder of how much we are loved and wanted by God. And I love that you have these two boys, but also that soon there'll be a third. And who knows? I don't know. Maybe you'll go for a dozen.
My husband says, I kind of hope it's a girl, because if it's not, I think we're going to end up with at least 4.
That's so funny. My husband said when I was pregnant with our second, he's like, if it's a girl, we're done. He's like, if it's a boy, then we'll talk. And I just wanted a girl so badly. But I was like, okay, God, just like whatever you want. Like, if we're going to have a bunch more kids, which, hey, if that's what it takes to have a girl, just my luck, I'd have like 12 boys too. But yeah, I went in and found out, and they're like, you're having a girl. Like, we actually found out the gender. And I was so excited about having a girl that I couldn't believe them. Like I could not. I was like, I don't know. It seems too easy. But you'll be happy to know the doctors were spot on. It was a girl.
Which wasn't true with the kids' stats. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that. They are one of my examples of like, guys, sometimes the doctors are just wrong. It happens.
Yep.
I personally blame their son's beautiful eyelashes on the confusion. Right. He's like, those are some gorgeous eyelashes.
Yep. Yes, they are. Hezekiah, my oldest, has it like spot on same eyelashes. And I'm like, why do boys get that? I would pay money for that. Boys don't care.
I know. All right. So here's what I have for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I
got some rapid fire questions, some kind of get to know you, nothing too difficult. So, because it's late at night, we can't be difficult.
5 to teach, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So, my first question, Erica, you got to get a nice hot beverage. Do you go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
My husband is from Massachusetts and is going to hate me for this, but Starbucks all the way.
Yes.
Sorry, please.
All right. You're going to have a just casual conversation with a girlfriend. Do you text or call?
I would love to call, but right now with 2 kids under the age of 4, we're texting.
Fair enough. Okay. So it's a long road trip. Do you drive or do you ride?
Who am I going with?
Let's just say your driver options are very good. So it's really about your preference of, do you prefer driving no matter what? Or are you like, no, I'd much rather ride with a good driver behind the wheel?
I'm really flexible. If my husband typically drives because he likes to, but I like driving too, either or.
We're going to put you in the ride category because you let your husband drive most of the time. So, all right.
I'll ride.
I just hypothetically handed you $100 and you can only spend it on something that's just fun for you. What do you do with the $100?
I want to go get a massage.
Oh, yes. You saying that makes me now want to go get a massage. All right. What is the last book that you read and really enjoyed?
I just read Trevor Noah's Born a Crime.
Oh, is it really good?
Very, very good. Yeah.
Love that.
It's hilarious. But if you're not going to be offended by language, maybe skip it. He writes how he speaks.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. What is the last movie that you actually spent money to see, whether you rented it or went to see it in a theater?
I went on my birthday to see Ocean's whatever it was.
Ocean's 8.
Yeah, with Sandra Bullock, and it was phenomenal.
I just watched it last night. So fun. I enjoyed that a lot. And last but not least, at the movie, you get to bring in your favorite movie time snack. What do you have stashed in your purse?
Oh, I'm not a big snacker. I don't know. I know my husband says that I'm un-American because I don't like ice cream and popcorn, but I like America.
I love that he's like, the whole country is, you're out.
I know, right?
I mean, it seems a little harsh, but...
Can I bring in nachos? I like nachos, but like good ones. Like loaded all over, not just the top, when it's all like layered, cheese sinking down. That's what I like.
Absolutely. Shove it in your purse. Bring it along.
All right.
Oh, well, this has been fun. It's been so nice to hear your story. I'm excited to get the update on your family as this journey continues. Tell me, is there a place that our listeners could follow you, or are you like an Instagram girl, Facebook girl? Facebook. Awesome. Yeah. Well, that way they can go maybe make friends with you, see your adorable family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
All right. There's a lot that we could discuss from Erica's story, but I really only want to leave you all with maybe 1 or 2 thoughts. first of all, when she talked about God laying it on her heart to be an adoptive mama, not necessarily out of a response from not being able to have children, but just that's really where she felt called to step into adoption right away. I was just reminded of something that I know that I've spoken to students about, but even remind myself of, is that sometimes there are just those things that we take for granted that are things that God has laid on our heart, or gifts that he's given us, or ways that he's wired us or designed us, that to us feel very normal, but not everybody feels the same way. And just for us to be aware of those things and really to continue to ask God, okay, God, what does this mean? Like, what is this thing that you've given me? How can I steward it well? And that can be anything from, like Erica talked about, having that desire to adopt, is stewarding that well, is choosing to step into that journey, even when it's hard. And maybe it's something where you have a gift of humor and you make people laugh. How are you stewarding that well? I don't know. There's so many different things. And I think about this a lot because there are certain things in my life I know I can take for granted, and I forget that God has given me things or gifts or whatever in my life to ultimately to point others towards him. And how am I using those things for his glory? But then the second half of that, and definitely part of Erica's story, is when we really embrace the things that God's given us, how that's not an easy road. I think sometimes I can totally fall prey to that lie that if I'm really obeying God and walking with him, that things are just going to be awesome. And sometimes they're hard, and honestly, they suck. And we don't necessarily ever get the answer on this side of eternity as to why it worked out that way. And sometimes we leave things, or we walk through things that we have way more questions than we have answers. And I was just reminded, listening to her story and thinking about the things in my life and certain things that I'm walking through, that just because things are hard doesn't mean that God isn't in it with us. And that I don't have to have all the answers for everything, that I can trust God in those things. And that trusting God doesn't always have to look like me smiling and like everything's great. Like, it's okay to walk obediently with God and still wrestle with frustration or whatever it is, that God can handle those things. And so I hope today, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, that this story was both an encouragement to you and maybe stirred something in your heart of things that God has laid on your heart, or again, gifted you with, or things that are specific and unique to you that he really wants to use in your life. And I'll pray that you'll listen to that. Excited for what's ahead in 2019. We have got some powerful stories headed your way. It was great to kick off with Erica, and I look forward to coming back and seeing you guys next week. So until then, just praying for you as you run your race in your place and keep being awesome for Jesus. Bye. The internets don't like me tonight. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Do you need any of the High School Musical breathing? The whatever they do.
Does that help? Should I do that?
I don't know. It seemed to help them on the show, so.